Thank you, Annette. That was wonderful. Hello, everyone. My name is Scarlett Tripsmith, and I will be your technical liaison for today. If you don't know, this is the Sunday service for the Humboldt Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, which we like to call HUF. If this is your first time joining us, we are so happy that you found us, and please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat to everyone. We welcome you. Now, we know that you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, different backgrounds, but we hope that you can find comfort and connection here. As you can see, you are muted, but however, we will be in a virtual coffee hour after the service where you will be able to converse with your fellow community. We ask that if you feel so comfortable, please keep your cameras turned on so that we can experience your beautiful faces in real time. Now, it is a part of our UU tradition to take part in sharing the joys and sorrows that weigh on our hearts. In this space, may you feel free to share with us and let us hold you. Today, we have Ann Kilby taking our joy, sorrows, and celebrations. So if you feel so called to share, please send them in the chat to Ann Kilby. During these times when we cannot safely meet together, these online services are our way of connecting. And it's because of sermons like today we can continue to keep the mission of our congregation alive. We're so glad you're here, joining us and engaging with the work through embracing diversity and empowering those connections. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our worship leader for today, Mr. Reverend Tom Lewis.
Good morning. My name is Tom Lewis. I'm the worship leader, and Ann Kilby, the so much able worship associate. She's helped so much planning this service. I want to extend a warm welcome to each of you this Easter spring morning, albeit a Humboldt County morning. We welcome people of all faiths, especially Christianity today, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and many other faiths. We welcome the young and old. We welcome the able and disabled. We welcome members of the LGBTQIA communities. The Unitarian Universalist tent is wide and it is long and welcomes all people. Today, as always, we want to acknowledge and honor the traditional close relationship with the Wiyot people. The Wiyot people maintain the land and the ecosystems where we now live. The Wiyots treated all parts of this area as their well-loved home, nurturing it attentively and intelligently. We aspire to steward our land here at Huff as well as they did, since they were here long, hundreds, thousands of years before us. As a welcoming congregation, we are committed to standing up to support worth and dignity of every person in our fellowship and in our wider community. We remind ourselves that we must put our commitments into action for all aspects of the common good. Together, we work to demonstrate the actively loving, just, inclusive, creative qualities of a society that we see as all people's universal birthright. I have a poem by Diego Valera, An Eye for Miracles. You who have an eye for miracles, regard the bud now appearing on the bare branch of the fragile young tree. It is a mere dot, nothing else. But already it is a flower, already a fruit, already its own death and resurrection. Let us begin. Anne, would you light the chalice? We gather together to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. We gather together to celebrate spring and some other things too. Pardon me. That doesn't work with a mask on. Let me begin again. We gather together to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities of love. We gather together to celebrate spring and the rebirth of life. And we gather because we need each other, and we are better for that. So let us begin. Our first hymn is Come, Come, Whoever You Are. I invite you to listen, sing along, or participate any way you would like.
The aspiration.
The aspiration. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration.
You are. Come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, whoever you're leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, whoever you're leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
The story for all members of our congregation, adult, old, children, and the extremely old, is The Three Questions. It's based on a story by Leo Tolstoy, written and illustrated by John Muth. The Three Questions. There once was a boy named Nikolai who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he told his friends, but I don't always know the best way to do that. Nikolai's friends understood, and they wanted to help him. If only I could find the answers to my three questions, Nikolai continued, then I would always know what to do. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? Nikolai's friends considered his first question. Then Sonia, the heron, spoke. To know the best time to do things, one must plan in advance. Goigoil, the monkey, who had been rooting through some leaves to find something good to eat, said, you will know what to think, what to do things, when to do things, if you watch and pay close attention. Then Pushkin, the dog, who was just dozing off, rolled over and said, you can't pay attention to everything yourself. You need a pack to keep watch and help you decide when to do things. For example, Goigoil, a coconut is about to fall on your head. Nikolai thought for a moment. Then he asked his second question, who is the most important one? Sonia said, those who are closest to heaven, circling up in the sky as she spoke. Those who know how to heal the sick, said Goigoil, stroking his bruised noggin. Those who make the rules, growled Pushkin. Nikolai thought some more, then he asked the third question, what is the right thing to do? Flying, said Sonia. Having fun all the time, laughed the monkey Goigoil. Fighting, barked Pushkin. Then the boy thought for a long while. He loved his friends. He knew they were all trying to help him answer his questions, but their answers didn't seem quite right. Then an idea came to him. I know, he thought, I will ask Leo the turtle. He has lived a very long time. Surely he will know the answers I'm looking for. Nikolai hiked up the mountains where the old turtle lived, all alone. When Nikolai arrived, he found Leo digging a garden. The turtle was old and digging was very hard for him. I have 3 questions and I came to ask your help, Nikolai said. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled. Then he went on with his digging. You must be tired, Nikolai said at last. Let me help you. The turtle gave him his shovel and thanked him. And because it was easier for a young boy to dig than it was for an old turtle, Nikolai kept on digging until the rows were completely finished. But just as he finished, the wind blew wildly and rain burst from darkened clouds. As they moved toward the cottage for shelter, Nikolai suddenly heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda whose leg had been injured by a falling tree. Carefully, Nikolai carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg with a stick of bamboo. The storm raged on, banging the doors and windows, and the panda woke up. Where am I? She said, and where's my child? The boy ran out of the cottage and down the path. The roar of the storm was deafening, pushing against the howling wind and drenching rain. He ran farther into the forest. There he found the panda's child, cold and shivering on the ground. The little panda was wet and scared, but alive. Nikolai carried her inside and made her warm and dry. Then he laid her in her mother's arms. Leo smiled when he saw what the boy had done. The next morning, the sun was warm, birds sang, and all was well with the world. The panda's leg was healing nicely, and she thanked Nikolai for saving her and her baby from the storm. Just at that moment, Sonia, Goigoil, and Pushkin arrived to make sure everything was all right. Nikolai felt great peace within himself. He had wonderful friends and he had saved the panda and her child. But he also felt disappointed. He still had not found the answer to his 3 questions. So he asked Leo one more time. The old turtle looked at the boy. But my son, your questions have been answered. They have? Asked the boy. Yesterday, if you had not stayed to help me dig my garden, you wouldn't have heard the panda's cries for help in the storm. Therefore, the most important time was the time you spent digging the garden. The most important one at that moment was me. And the most important thing to do was to help me with my garden. Later, when you found the injured panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg and saving her child. The most important ones were the panda and her baby. And the most important thing to do was to take care of them and make them safe. Remember, my dear Nikolai, that then there's only one important time. That time is now. The most important one is always the one you are with. And the most important thing is to do good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear boy, are the answers to what is most important in this world. And that is why we all are here. Will
Thank you, Annette. You may have to unmute again, I don't know.
let's
Thank you, Annette. Very beautiful. I have a reading now. This reading is by Robert Fulghum, Reverend Robert Fulghum. It's from his book, All I Really Need to Know, I Learned in Kindergarten, Uncommon Thoughts on Common Things, published by Ballantine Books. And this is a later edition from his first edition. This is called Credo. To begin with, did I really learn everything I need to know in kindergarten? Do I still believe that? Here is the original essay, followed by my editorial reaction. Each spring for many years, I have set myself the task of writing a personal statement of belief, a credo. When I was younger, the statement ran for many pages, trying to cover every base with no loose ends. It sounded like a Supreme Court brief, as if words could resolve all conflicts about the meaning of existence. The credo has grown shorter in recent years, sometimes cynical, sometimes comical, and sometimes bland, but I keep working at it. Recently, I set out to get the statement of personal belief down to one page in simple terms, fully understanding the naive idealism that implied. The inspiration for brevity came to me at a gasoline station. I managed to fill my old car's tank with super deluxe high octane go juice. My old hoopy couldn't handle it and got the willies, kept sputtering out at intersections and belching going downhill. I understood. My mind and my spirit get like that from time to time. Too much high content information and I get the existential willies. I keep sputtering out at intersections where life choices must be made, and I either know too much or not enough. The examined life is no picnic. I realized then that I already know most of what's necessary to live a meaningful life, but it isn't all that complicated. I know it and have known it for a long, long time. Living it, well, that's another matter, yes? Here's my credo. All I really need to know about how to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain, but there in the sand pile at Sunday school. These are the things I learned. Share everything, play fair, don't hit people. Put things back where you found them, clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands before you eat, flush. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some, and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. Take a nap every afternoon. When you go out into the world, watch out for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Wonder. Remember the little seed in the styrofoam cup. The roots go down and the plant goes up, and nobody really knows how or why, but we are all like that. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice, and even the little seed in the styrofoam cup, they all die. So do we. And then remember the Dick and Jane books and the first word you learned, the biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule and love and basic sanitation, ecology and politics, and equality and sane living. Take any one of those items and extrapolate it into sophisticated adult terms and apply it to your family life or your work or your government or your world, and it holds true and clear and firm. Think what a better world it would be if we all, the whole world, had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock every afternoon, and then lay down with our blankies for a nap. Or if all governments had as a basic policy to always put things back where they found them and to clean up their own mess. And it is still true, no matter how old you are, when you go out into the world, it is best to hold hands and stick together. And now, as is our tradition, we have what we call joys, sorrows, and celebrations, where anyone who wants to share with the fellowship can do so this way. The procedure is that for each item, I'll take a stone here and put it into the stone with the water of the earth. Thus invoking our good wishes and sharing. So first we have from Pat Carr and Valerie Kaczynski, thinking about our daughter Lily and her fiancé Matt. Matt has suffered a serious back injury and may need surgery. This calls in question their big wedding plans in Sedona, Arizona on April 21st. So it's a stressful time for them. So with this stone, we wish them well. From Sina Marino, she is thankful to be having a visit from her daughter and 2 grandchildren, and she's able to hug them now. So with this stone, we share your gladness. From Carmela Cristina Ventura, I have a joy and a sorrow. First, the sorrow. My youngest daughter, Katana, who is 2 years old, suffers from febrile seizures, and she had 2 seizures on Monday. It is terrifying and has left my husband and me traumatized and fearful of her getting sick. The worry often robs us of our joy. The joy I'd like to share is that she is fully recovered, and we pray she will grow out of this affliction soon. And she thanks us. So one stone for the joy that Katana is now recovered, and the other stone for the anxiety and wishing her well in the future. From Susie Hustis, let's keep Kate McLean in our hearts. She is traveling to Astoria, Oregon to be with a dear friend whose life on this earth is ending. I know this is a difficult time for Kate and for her friend. So with this stone, we send also our good wishes, our support to both of them. From Jenny Hansen, this is to wish Sylvia Shaw a happy birthday today. And we all wish you a happy birthday, Sylvia. This is from Chip Sharp. Thank you to David Marshak, John Schaefer, and Allison Roncall for helping to display the Huff and Black Lives Matter banners yesterday from noon to 1:30 at 4th and B Streets in Eureka. And with this stone, we also give our thanks to all three of you. Actually, 4. Chip was there. And from Chip, let's see, okay, that was the same. Thank you all for sharing with recognizing that many of us have things on our hearts that we haven't actually shared, but would like support for. This stone is for all those things left unsaid at this time.
Thank you, Anne. That was really quite beautiful the way you did that. We are now going to have a short prayer and then a guided meditation by me. And at the end of that, there will be a bell sound, and we'll go right into our next hymn. There's a river flowing in my soul. Let us pray. Great Spirit, all-knowing, all-powerful Mother, Father God, we come this morning with an open heart, humility, and with gratitude. Comfort those families up in the millions who have died from this pandemic. Be with the families that have injuries and illness. We give gratitude and joy for families post-COVID. We give gratitude and praise for young children who recover from illness. Be with those who celebrate life and birthdays. Let them be happy as they celebrate life at this springtime. As we celebrate this new season of birth and rebirth, we are grateful. Blessed be, amen. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in this present moment, I know it's a wonderful moment. Breathing in, we calm our bodies. Breathing out, we smile. Dwelling in this present moment, we know it's a wonderful moment. Please sit upright, be in a relaxed posture with your hands in your lap or on your knees. And just watch your breath. Watch and notice the belly which expands, the rib cage which widens, and the chest which rises. I would like you to simply follow your breath. Look at every little tiny part. Is the air, can you feel the air passing into your body from the nostrils? Do your ribs expand more than your chest rises? I want you to follow the breath. Let the breath lead. Wherever it takes you. Our next hymn is There's a River Flowing in My Soul.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind.
Thank you. I want to recognize Ann Kilby, Annette Hall, and Scarlett Tripsmith. Without them, none of this would happen. It's incredibly smooth, smoother than anything I would be doing. So for those who don't know my history and relationship to this congregation, I'd like to give you briefly. I joined this congregation on Old Arcata Road, tiny house that was bursting at the seams. I joined in 1982, and in 1995, I was so taken in by the principles and this denomination that with the support of Richard Casal, Ray Barrett, I decided to go to seminary. So I left Arcata, moved to Berkeley, and got a Master's of Divinity. In 2002, I was ordained right on this spot. I was given this gift of a stole by people made it here in this congregation. It's really great to be back home among you. My sources for this sermon are a blueprint for reparations in the United States, written by William Darity and his wife, Whitney Rogers. And as Anne so ably read the credo from Robert Fulghum, all I needed to know I learned in kindergarten. It has been over 150 years since the end of the Civil War. The first stolen, kidnapped Africans were delivered to Jamestown, Virginia, over 400 years ago in 1619. And over 50 years has passed since the cruel and dehumanizing years of Jim Crow violence, lynchings, beatings, and there is still no full equity for African Americans. It is not surprising, of course, that Blacks feel and express their deep anger, hurt, and frustration, sometimes paying the price of their lives. After the murder of George Floyd in May 2020, the size and numbers of the public protests and demonstrations has increased and been unprecedented all over the world. The political movement of Black Lives Matter that this congregation supports, thank you, Chip, protesting against police violence has been impressive, but full long-term racial justice in America is still only a future hope. The common quote by Martin Luther King was wise and prophetic. Let us realize the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. However, he didn't say how long. It appears that the recent police murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and many others has aroused a new, determined political will. But is it sufficient to make the needed social and legal changes for African Americans to come into full equal citizenship? Racial justice may happen sooner than later, but I'm not so confident that the changes will be made to live up to this country's lofty dream as clearly laid out in the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all women and men are created equal and are endowed with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Certainly this is a lofty declaration, but it has become a broken promise to African Americans, Native Americans, and other people of color, and now of late, those of Asian descent. The white political will to fulfill that promise just may have been born in 2019 and 2020 with the help, of course, of technology, showing us the brutal murder of George Floyd. The arc is still bending, but the political energy just may be sufficient to end the long-standing inequities of police brutality, housing opportunities, limited access to health, and especially lately, the treatment and prevention of COVID-19. But there's one big piece of legislation that I believe must happen to bring justice and closure to this dark and shameful period of American history. Reparations, a redress of the wrongs by white US citizens against Blacks, and to formally make amends for the decades of rape, torture, beatings, forced family separations, and other unspeakable, heinous crimes. It is far, far past the time, and it will never be too late to bring the light of justice into this dark, dark period of the United States of America. Actually, I think it's a soul matter for this country, a soul matter for each of us individually. But first, I must digress before I lay out a plan for this country to make it right. In Robert Fulghum's books, he paints a book of the simple truths that we all learned early in our lives. I quote, "Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain, but there in the sand pile at Sunday school in churches across the land." In this book, Fulghum simply shows how the lessons that are taught preschoolers and kindergartners are the very foundation of societal and cultural norms that underpin the laws of our country. Here are a few of the things he listed that certainly apply to a reparations program. Don't take things that are not yours. Play fair. Don't hit people. Don't shoot people. Say you are sorry when you hurt someone. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I'm sorry, please forgive me. These lessons were and are implicitly taught in preschools, elementary schools, and kindergartens. Take any one of these items and extrapolate it into the adult terms and apply it to your family, your work, your congregation, and yes, apply it in Congress. As Fulghum writes, it holds true and clear and firm. We are sent to school to learn the essential machinery of human society. Societies around the world value this important guidelines and require all children to attend early school at early ages. And these tenets also apply every day in our adult world and our lives. Share everything. If you drive to San Francisco tomorrow morning, you have to share the road. You can't drive on the left side of the road. You can't pass when it's not safe. You must share the road. Do not hit people. Do not hit people with your words, your violent words. It is a crime to assault another in any form. Do not take things that are not yours. Kidnapping, burglary, robbery are all punishable as crimes. You can't steal someone from their home country and bring them to a new land. We must say we are sorry when we hurt someone. An example, in an auto accident, when you are at fault, you say you are sorry by you or your insurance paying for the repairs or injuries you caused to another. You are personally, legally responsible for the damages you caused. We are all responsible for our behavior. There are consequences for how we behave. Now, our basic legal and societal norms are based on these things that were so simple and straightforward in the kindergarten. And as Fulgham says, are a much different matter in the adult world. Now, what does this have to do with creating long-term racial justice? I think it's everything. Saying you're sorry when you hurt someone is essential for justice to be served. As I said before, I believe that long-term racial justice can only occur with a formal, legal public apology from our government, and our government make restitution a redress of the wrongs inflicted on millions of Africans. Reparations is a prescription. The USA must apologize in a very formal way by an act of Congress. This is what reparations mean. The act of making amends, offering expiation, or giving satisfaction for a past wrong or injury. This action has been ignored for centuries. However, after the Civil War, this concept was actually born. In January of 1865, by field orders of Union General William Sherman, 40,000 slaves were awarded 40 acres and a mule. It was a proclamation that day. They received 40 acres and a mule, and the land was set aside from North Carolina to North Florida. However, after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, President Andrew Johnson explicitly reversed and annulled these special orders and returned the land to white farmers. So it's not a new concept. And for this country, it's been broken promises, just like the Native Americans. Broken promises. We must say we're sorry. According to William Darity and his wife, Whitney, reparations must contain 3 elements. Number 1, acknowledgement of the wrong or injuries, a statement of what happened. Kidnapping Africans, forcing them to be enslaved and work in a foreign land, raping their women, to name only a few. The US government, in public declaration, an act of Congress, must fully acknowledge these wrongs that occurred for over 400 years of slavery. Number 2, formal redress with direct cash payments to descendants of slaves. I'll repeat, formal redress with direct cash payments to descendants of slaves. And number 3, finally bring closure of these dark years. Both parties, descendants of slaves and the American government, must agree that the reparations paid are sufficient to satisfy the harm done and agree that no further demands will be made. As I mentioned earlier, there's legal and historical precedent with this. This country has done it before. Far after 40 acres and a mule, around the world there has been reparations programs. After World War II, the West German government made direct payments to Jews following the Holocaust. And a similar plan was enacted into US law and provided for direct payments to incarcerated Japanese Americans during World War II. And of course, the famous Truth and Reconciliation program in South Africa. made direct payments to victims, and in some cases required police to sit down in public and face their victims, publicly saying, "I am sorry, please forgive me." And even recently, just this last week, the Board of Supervisors for Evanston, Illinois, became the first city to pass legislation making a direct payment of $400,000 to 16 Black residents who faced housing discrimination in the past 15 years. It is a precedent. It can be a precedent. We must hear and listen to these prior reparations programs. As Dorothy and his wife Whitney say, another important reason, I think this is the core of reparation, is to make payments to descendants of slaves is to address the Black-white wealth differential. This is a huge gap in the wealth of whites and Blacks in this country. Doherty in his book attributes this equity as core to the disparity between the races. In order for this disparity to satisfy the wrongs incurred, the direct payments must be sufficient to eliminate the wealth differential. Wealth, in part, has been the reason for white power and privilege. For example, African Americans are 13% of the US population, but own only 2.6% of the wealth. 3 older white males, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett, own an equivalent of 80% of all of the Blacks in this country. 80%. Millions, tens of millions. 1/3 of the world's wealth is owned by US residents. And guess how much that is in white hands? 90% of that wealth. Doherty says that there should be 2 simple qualifications or criteria for these payments. Number 1 is proof of direct descendancy from slaves through genealogical records. And number 2, individuals who have proof that they have self-identified for the past 12 years as Black, Negro, or African American. The first thing would be a congressional appointed task force to assess the situation and establish qualifications. And then a budget plan to finance the trillions of dollars it would take. It may take decades, but we must do it. We must say, "I'm sorry." We must do everything we can to bring true justice and equality. In summation, as I close, it's shown in a recent study that 20% of Americans support the idea of reparations. 5 years ago, that was a measly 8%. So what can we do? Talk with your friends, talk with your enemies. Keep this beginning political talk propelled by Black Lives Matter alive. It's the soul of the nation and it's our souls. Educate them as to why this is necessary to create a country that is truly fair and just. It benefits us all. After all, we know how to act when we hurt somebody. Robert Fulghum told us, we say we are sorry and we apologize. This country needs to formally apologize. Blessed be. We have one final hymn, number 153, I Woke Up This Morning. I invite you to listen, sing along, or participate.
this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd like to tell you a little story, short story. It's about giving. It's a personal story from my life. Easter Sunday, I was 5 years old. I had somehow received a notion that I should go to church on Sunday morning, Easter Sunday. And this was completely out of the experience of the family. We weren't churchgoers. I was with my dad that week. Well, he was bemused about it and he didn't want to go himself, but he helped me to get ready. And he gave me, the point of this is he gave me in my little bitty purse a nickel, and he explained they would pass the plate and people gave money in the plate. And the reason they did that was so they could keep on having church and having their community, and also so they could do good things as they found possible. Now, 5 cents for me, I didn't have an allowance or any money, and you could get a substantial sized piece of something nice at the store for 1 penny. And this was 5. So I went off and I attended the church. The church ladies were so sweet and they were happy to see me. And the thing that I felt was that these 5 cents, this was a way that I could give a bit richly. I felt so good and so warm about it as I gave that nickel. And the reason that I tell this story is that I think each of us now can find what's that right amount, that little bit rich, but just right. And so now we're going to have our offertory, and that will play some more beautiful music for us. And you'll see on your screen instructions, suggestions, how that you can manage to actually accomplish the giving.
Please hold a virtual hand as we can. Please hold a virtual hand as we extinguish this chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light and the warmth from its flame. May it extend wider into this room virtually as we go back into this world, knowing well that we must say, I'm sorry when you wrong someone. Blessed be.
Go from here in peace, go in love. Go from here in peace, go in love. Go from here in peace, go in love, go in peace. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, blessed be, aseh, aho, namaste. Okay. Sorry, I misinterpreted there. Okay.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. You have the opportunity to unmute yourselves now. Oh, I just pressed the wrong thing. Oh well. Well, either way. You guys don't have to unmute yourselves if you don't have anything bursting out of your flames, but we definitely welcome you here today. And if you'd like to turn yourselves onto gallery view so you can see everyone else, we have Reverend Tom Lewis here to answer any questions. And if you guys have any comments about the theme of this service that you would like to engage in, now is the beautiful time. And after that, we'll have our dance party. So thank you.
We can't hear.
No one's saying anything.
Oh, okay, that's why.
So, if
Good
you would like to
reason.
say something, Tom, please feel free to open the floor.
No, I've said enough.
I'll say I'm happy to see Tom again. It's Barbara Clark. Hi.
Thank you.
Same with us from Hawaii. Hello, Tom.
Hi, June. Hi, Dave.
Oh, June